House Taxation Committee will come to order. Committee, I'd like to draw your attention first. We have a new WebEx AV tech, Alex Mason.
Ooh, great.
Not sure what happened to our other one, so be careful, Alex. First item of business would be requests for bill introductions. Do we have any requests? Yes, Representative Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to introduce RS 2995, 2995. It would provide a sales tax exemption for certain community theaters that meet criteria outlined in the bill.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? Any objection? Seeing none, the request is approved.
And then, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, if you could schedule a hearing yet this week, I'd appreciate
We'll see
it.
about that. Friday at 3:30 work for everybody? Are there any further requests for bill introductions? Representative Wassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since he did not act out or sing this request, I think we should deny it.
Any further requests? Seeing none, we will move on to our first item of business for the day. It is a hearing on House Bill 2440. And first of all, I'd like to have our revisers do a brief overview of the bill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2440 would provide a property tax exemption for homestead property of certain retired and disabled veterans. Pursuant to the bill, there's kind of creates 6 classes that would be eligible for an exemption. The first 4 depend on their disability rating of a service-connected disability. So for a disabled veteran who has at least 30% but less than 40%, they would receive an exemption of $3,000 from the homestead property's assessed value. For a disability rating of 40% but less than 50%, a $3,500 exemption from such disabled veterans' homestead property's assessed value. Then going on, 50 to 60% would be a $4,000. 60 to 70% would be a $4,500 exemption. So those are the first four classes. Moving on, the next kind of 2 classes would be, or the next would be an exemption, full exemption for a disabled veteran who is permanently confined to a wheelchair or who has a disability rating of at least 70% or greater. And then lastly, the last class would be for disabled veterans 65 years of age or older. The exemption from assessed value of the homestead would equal the percentage of such disabled veterans' disability rating. And then lastly, a surviving spouse would also qualify and would be entitled to such exemption until the surviving spouse would remarry. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Siebers. That's pretty clear cut. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for that. Would Department of Revenue care to review the fiscal note, please? No?
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, Kathleen Smith with the Department of Revenue. House Bill 2440 would decrease property tax revenues. We are estimating that the bill would decrease the educational building fund by around $240,000 in fiscal year 2023, and the state institutions building fund by $120,000 in fiscal year 2023.
Thank you, Kathleen. Committee, are there any questions for Department of Revenue? Yes, Representative Corbett.
Kathleen, is there any idea how many, a number of how many people this would cover?
We did look at data from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, and I think there are around 44,000 veterans that are receiving disability compensation. And based upon the qualifications in the bill, we found probably around 28,000 that would actually qualify for this exemption.
Thanks.
Further questions, committee? Kathleen, I just had one. I know most of the fiscal note would happen at the local level with property taxes. It's my understanding, if I remember right, I was a county commissioner. I never was a clerk or a treasurer, but does the Department of Revenue have anything to do with their programming systems? I'm just curious what kind of programming would be necessary to implement this at the local level, if this is going to have to be a hand calculation or if there's software updates they can take care of this.
Mr. Chairman, I will have to get back with you on that. I would like to talk with our property valuation director and just see what we can do.
Okay. Thank you, Kathleen. Seeing no further questions, thank you for that. This time, we will open up our proponent testimony and welcome first to committee, Richard Miller, Veteran Associate, or Advocate. Welcome to committee, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm Richard Miller, and first of all, I'd like to thank all of you legislators for allowing me to testify before you in support of a revised House Bill 2440, and thanks to all of you for being so accessible. I've been astonished at how easy it's been to get a hold of people, all you legislators. I know you're not very busy, so I do appreciate that. Personally, I'm here for several reasons, one of which my father would be honored to know I'm here in front of this court. He died as city attorney of Hutchinson, and in honor of my father, and this I know this has nothing to do with this, but in honor of my father, Captain Carl William Miller of the 1st Cavalry Unit, 2nd Wave, Normandy of France, World War II, died way too young with combat implications and complications. Number two, I'm here also as a tribute to some 58,178 of my brothers who were denied the opportunity to live out their lives, even if it were being a Vietnam disabled veteran. And I'm here to represent today's 15,400 Kansas disabled veterans. And I know there's lots of different figures. That was the figure I could come up with. When I came back from Vietnam with several apparent and many unapparent disabilities, one of which was a denial of PTSD. In 1969, PTSD was not even recognized, and I refused to admit its existence. But in that era, it was buck up, get busy, which I did, or I should say we did. With little psychological help from the VA, I did have backup, however. My Valentine is here, and she was responsible for my psychological treatment, Patty Miller. Enough of me. I hope that you have all received our proposal from Leah, and she said she was able to pass it around. And both of my lobby members are out of town, so it will be me as the go-to person today. And I will try to answer any questions you might have. The hypothetical situation in the handout is one that might occur under the initial bill of 2440. And tell me, as we go through the calculations, two of us came up with these calculations, but tell me if you feel my calculations of the proposed and revised bill examples are correctly calculated. And this example depicts a senior veteran with 50% disability. the other gentleman came over all of the various categories. And how in the world the Department of Revenue is going to calculate all that is beyond me. And I kind of felt that our example would certainly make things a little easier for the Department of Revenue. But it costs more. And do all of you have this draft with the example of what a 50%
Are you talking
veteran
about
would receive?
It says existing House Bill 2440 proposal with the calculations.
Yes. And I tried to use his example of the 50% veteran and use an assessed value of a home at, say, $300,000. Next week, that assessed value would probably be $600,000, but this week it's $300,000. And I used the annual tax rate of 1.6% to come up with an estimated annual tax, just as an example. So we have a $3,500, for that 50% category, it's a $3,500 exemption. So the way we deemed it, it was, if we took that exemption, then we'd end up with a assessed value of $296,500, and then the tax on that would be $4,736. So the difference between the two would be $64 to the veteran. Now, if my calculations are correct, it would appear to me that the bill is not only, I don't know what the term would be, it would be almost deceitful to think that a veteran is going to receive $54 or $64 when he has a new assessed value. Under our revision of the House Bill Tax 2440, we would just merely, we wouldn't be going after the assessed value. We would look at just what was the tax and use a certain percent of the veteran's designation and multiply it times that tax, which would be what his exemption would be. So if it came up at $4,800, the tax at a 50% rate would be $2,400, and that would be his exemption. Use the same rate, same category, you would use the same method if he were 80%, 60%, or 50%. And then we are looking too at this to continue to be for senior disabled veterans, those that are over 65 years old, and the income level, I believe now is like $50,000 for a family, and we would agree with that. We disagree with using an assessed value because the value of the homes anymore are going up so fast, it'd be hard to keep an accurate calculation on that as far as we could see. So anyway, with that, that's really the crux of our entire revision. And if you had any questions, I'd be happy to entertain a question.
Certainly. As I'm looking at your example here, I think one of the corrections, and this does get kind of confusing sometimes with tax policy. Using your example, the total value of your home is the appraised value is $300,000. Okay.
Which right now is the same as assessed.
Right.
So.
Well, the assessed valuation, there is an assessment factor for residential property that's 11.5%. So that $300,000 appraised value would be multiplied by that factor, which would take it down to, by my math, that'd be $34,500. And that is the value that would be reduced by the, $3,500 in this situation here, which would roughly be about a 10% Still, that's not the 50% reduction in the tax bill, but the 10% would equal, in this example, would equal approximately a $345 property
Excuse
tax.
me, I didn't hear that.
In this example, after you take the appraised value multiplied by the assessment factor of 11.5% for residential property, that should take the assessed value to $34,500, and then that is the value that you would subtract the $3,500 from, and then multiply that by your mill levy. So it would be in the savings under this example of approximately $345.
So what would be the veterans exemption then? Tax exemption?
That would be about the $345.
$345?
Yes.
Instead of the 64?
Right,
that
but
I
it's
came up
still
with.
not the $2,400 either, so I just wanted to.
Yeah, okay.
There
I'll
is a-
buy that.
There is an extra step in there. Different properties are classified differently as far as their assessment factors, and residential properties are at 11.5% of the appraised value.
Okay. Well, even at that figure, it's pretty, it's almost, why are we wasting our time with a bill to give a veteran $300? It's almost more money to put the thing together than what the veteran is going to receive. So our proposal naturally is going to be, I like our proposal better, and I know the Department of Revenue probably doesn't. But I think that it would be, I think that we should be proud of our veterans and what they've had to put up with, what they've had to go through in their lifetime. And to say, well, we're going to give you a real deal here, $340, to me it's just almost an insult. So anyway, that's kind of where we're coming from, and I'd just like to have you review our proposal and see if there isn't something that would be a little bit more attractive, and also looking at other states. I mean, other states, there are a lot of states that will give you 100%. Not all of them, but they certainly are more than $430, almost every state in the union. So I'd like to see us at least kind of come in line with some other states, the majority of the other states, I would say, because some recognize the veteran more than others, but I just can't believe that Kansas is not one that would really value its veterans. So, and I thank you very much. I really appreciate the time, and hope maybe we could do something a little better for our veterans.
But just, I'll hold on. Is there any other questions for the proponent? Just want to make sure everyone has an opportunity. Okay, seeing none.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Committee, I show no other proponents or opponents. Is there anyone else wishing to appear on behalf of House Bill 2440? Seeing none, we will go ahead and close the hearing. And committee, that was the extent of the business for today. So if there is, oh yes, Representative Fulkerson.
Mr. Chairman, I hate to spring this on you, but I have a question. I see the Appropriation Committee continuing in its trend of spending more and more money. I've seen the governor's proposal out there on several taxes. We have a wealth of proposals in front of us. Could you share a little bit what your plan is about if we can put a policy together or a direction for tax policy for the House?
As far as a comprehensive policy or a specific bill?
Either one, whatever you'd like to share with us.
Whatever you want. Okay. I know we do have several bills specifically regarding food sales tax. I've been working with the revisers on kind of a comprehensive draft on some ideas for that I plan on introducing this week, and I would like to start working on that next week. And if you have a comprehensive process or something else you would like to discuss, I'd be more than willing to entertain. I don't know if you have a bill ready to introduce, or what your strategy is, but always willing to entertain.
Well, there are several concepts that I'm interested in, but it's almost, how much money do we want to do with a $2 or $3 billion surplus? What's reasonable? And I know we've had discussions in the Appropriations Committee. We've had some here. We're going to have a briefing from the Budget Division, the Governor's Budget Division tomorrow, to tell us how they think the mega bill, tax bill that was, or not tax bill, but mega Department of Commerce, how that fits in with their financial view of the state. Whether or not it's 400, 600, or $800 million, it's helpful for us to say, this is where we think the amount of taxes we can afford and move ahead. And that's actually one of the questions I'll pose to Budget Division tomorrow. And their feeling is that they can do a sales tax and they can do the $250 with the Department of Commerce proposal. And whether or not those are your priorities or not, that gives me an idea of how much money they think we have available to stay within the budget. You gotta.
I would agree. Are you yielding the floor?
I'm yielding the floor.
Okay. Representative Corbett?
Listening to the representative, and it is true, and those of us who are on budget committees, these budgets are coming in like it's a Christmas tree going out of business sale. I mean, up 3,300% up. It's just like there was no floor to the whatever, and you kind of wonder if you're playing blind pitch or whatever, and you don't know whether this company is going to be able to that takes the offer will take the offer in time for us to complete the budget process. Do you know that? So I mean, I agree with the representative. It'd be nice to know. It wouldn't be too bad just to cut some taxes for the people who sent it here. So that needs to be said once in a while.
Representative Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good points by my colleagues, both of them. And I believe we will have a new budget profile. I think Representative Helgerson and Representative Corbett, you're going to get that probably tomorrow. Corbett, I did say it properly. I think in approach, you're going to see a new profile tomorrow. So hopefully that will give you a little better idea of what kind of money we're talking about that we can spend on additional tax cuts as we move forward. And I'll just say one of my biggest priority is the sales tax on food. When I was going door to door, partially door to door last November, that was the biggest issue that my constituents were telling me. But along those same lines, I don't know if you've heard, after I went off on the Senate last week or the week before, they've done it again. I don't know if you've heard, they passed out a committee bill, Senate Bill 339, I believe is the number of it, and they did put sales tax on food, prepared food, doesn't take effect until January 2024. They added utilities for businesses, tax exempt. They added exemptions for services, delivery services. They added free movies for everyone. No, it's just 2 years on movie tickets. I believe I calculated about $865 million. So just there they go again. And I think the chairman is right that we need to take together we need to push an agenda and push our own tax plan out, which I know the chairman's working on, because we just can't take what the Senate is offering, in my opinion. Thank you.
Representative Highland, I see a hand raised. Are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I had a question, but it's for Adam. Back on that bill, 2440, bottom page page 1, line items 36C. The way I read that, that encompasses someone like myself with a disability less than 30%, but I'm over 65. So does that apply? I see Jim nodding his head, so I'm assuming that's what's in the bill and that's the way it's written.
Well, are you referring to Adam, the reviser? I was going to have him take a look at that or respond.
Representative Highland, I believe you are correct. As my reading of the bill would be the same, that it's kind of a separate class for 65 years of age and older, and then essentially would have matched the exemption would match their disability rating, but that would be off their assessed value of the property.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative. Committee, going back to our open discussion that we were just having, something that I've been telling people in town halls and visiting with them around since probably November, and we got the consensus revenue estimates out, is what the state has effectively done. It's kind of like winning the lottery, winning a fair amount in the lottery. You don't want to take your winnings and go spend it all on buying a down payment on a new house and a new car, because if you spend all your money on the down payment, you're still obligated to the payments in the future. So we have to define as a state how much one-time money we can spend in the appropriations. And I don't know that anyone has that perfect crystal ball to see what kind of tax cut policy we can implement into the future and still be okay. I think it's probably a graduated scale. If we're spending $500 million, there's X amount of chance that we'll be okay. If we're going to spend twice that, there's probably a double the opportunity that we're going to get ourselves into trouble. So I think we just need to take a look at those new, because as you said, we have passed some legislation here already that could impact that. So I'll be anxiously waiting for the profile to see what that looks like, see what the discussion is and where we can go. But yes, as a tax committee, I definitely think we need to keep in mind what amount, what's that target amount that we can put towards tax cuts and still maintain sustainability for the state. Representative Epley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since you opened that door and Representative Gardner talked about this, I just think that after many of us here have lived through the time when we had to roll back the LLC tax deduction in 2017 session and what our bottom line looked at that time, and it was $1.2 billion in the red, give or take a few $1 million. And I proposed a bill to you that is a clean bill that's incremental and I think fiscally responsible about the sales tax reduction. And I think it's somewhat, not because I dreamed it up, but I think it's the way to go because it's over 3 years, not all at once. And I hope that we'll look at that because of what happened in the past and that we can be more fiscally responsible going forward, trying to maintain an adequate rainy day fund balance on that specific issue. And so I just wanted to put that out there. Getting that from, again, Representative Gardner when he wanted to have the glide path in the past when we didn't have the money in our account, and we do now, and I still think we need to do it over 3 years or longer, being careful of our bottom line going forward. Thank you.
Representative Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think one thing we need to remember is we don't give tax cuts. We don't give money away. We invest tax dollars in hopes of getting a return when we invest those dollars on different things. I've sat on this committee now for several years, and you're right, Representative, that was some pretty painful times when we had those big deficits. And I will tell you, I also go to those town halls, and they're much nicer to you than they are me. They, for some reason, don't think we're working hard enough to reduce some different things that they perceive as being wasteful, mismanaged. So I think we need to probably look at a 5-year review on all of our exemptions and classifications. We've heard different people talk about property tax and things like that. I think one of the issues there is classifications and how the 1988 classification change, how that's played out after 32 years, 34 years. We need to see the repercussions from that. We need to look at some of the exemptions we've given on everything from sales tax to property tax. I mean, representative from Wichita down there came one year with a whole list of sales tax exemptions, and those were just his. So anyhow, I think we need a 5-year review, and that's a pretty major step, but somewhere you got to start, and we need to take a first step and be able to go back once a year and give a review on what we've actually accomplished with that review and make some suggested changes. Thank you.
If you look at your agenda this week, we will have an overview on some sales tax review exemptions on sales tax, so.
So I'm going to an auction Thursday night to buy some land for a friend of mine. This is the same land that sold for $88 an acre in 1988. And I've already been told that the banker from California will bid $1 more than whatever I bid on it, but we're going to find out. I'll have a report next week. Thank you.
Representative Corbett?
Thank you. Normally, I would bring the can down here, but it seems like, and I do believe this, you could probably do away with every deduction or exemption, and they can't stop spending money here. But they are good about one thing. They can kick that frickin' can for 50 generations and still be broke. So you can have all your reports you want, do all your stuff, but until you get serious about trying to make this state a little more friendlier for people to come and grow, we're just kind of spinning our wheels, and that's just my 2 cents. That's my can speech.
The can speech, yes. Any further discussion, committee? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.